That was very energetic. I hope that the crowd remains energetic through our session. Okay, it's really nice to be here among all the panelist members, as well as the HR leaders, delivery leaders, TA leaders, the very people who reimagine the way how organizations value talent, right? And with the topic that we have today, I think we are going to say that compensation today is not just the numbers or the increments. It's a narrative, how we tell stories through our pay and recognition systems, that how we create values for your skills, as well as for your career growths, and the how do we intend to build, actually invest for your future. And with that, I will start with the first set of questions, which is actually there for all of you. Now, compensation obviously is evolving faster than ever, from pay transparency to skill-based reward system, and obviously the purpose-driven value propositions. And if you have to describe like how the concept of reward has changed in your organization or might be the industry as a whole, right, over the last few years, what would you say has been the biggest shift?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, this is, I think, one of the favorite topics of all the HR folks about compensation, right? So I am Anamika. I represent Staples, and it's a GCC that we have set up in Chennai. What we are trying to do is differentiating the compensation, right? How do you differentiate that as well? There are purposes, right? What is the contextual relevance of a role that is defined? I'll give you an example. If you look at a cybersecurity professional, right? If a cybersecurity professional has knowledge of the regulatory details, regulatory platforms, regulatory norms of the countries, of the city, of the industry as well, that industry context, the contextual knowledge of the processes, the technology insights, combined together is going to give an edge to that individual, right? Those are the kind of people that we differentiate the compensation for. Now, having said that, how are these compensation differentiations coming in place as well? Of course, with the AI-driven focus. Before that, let me just take you 15, 20 years back. I have been in this industry for more than 2.5 decades. So let me just give you a small little example. We were discussing over lunch. Sometime back, we were doing some salary negotiations with an individual, and this individual literally took my case, and he said, "You are giving me a 30% increase. See where your 30% increase is going to take me. I am supposed to get married in the next 4 years. The inflation in every year is cumulative. Whatever percentage hike you're giving me today is going to be actually just 10% or maybe lower than that. So because of that, I have to get married now or in the next 2 years to ensure the cost of Shamiana is taken care of." That's the kind of detailing, that's the kind of mathematical precision with which the candidate came up and blew me off. This is not now, this is more than 15 years back. So think about it, as HR professionals, it's so important for all of us to think about differentiation, the purpose with which the employee is working, and what is their need, what is their purpose, professional and personal as well. Just try to understand that, to define what is right for them. Sorry, a long answer.
No,
but
that was profound.
Wanted to share.
Arun, what is your take on this?
Listen, I think the answer is all of the above, right? Pay for performance, been around for quite a long while. Skill-based pay, increasingly relevant to put a bridge to the future. I think if I take some of the other things that are coming in, ultimately reward systems come down to be simplified into three things: the need to pay, the ability to pay, and the willingness to pay. If you bring these three dimensions together, you've got your reward system reasonably in the right place. Uh, some of the things that we've been working on quite a lot over the last few years is uh, things like fair pay, pay transparency. So, for example, not many of you may be aware that it's no longer actually legal in some parts of the world, like in the US now, to ask a candidate, how much are you making today? So what that really means is your ability to price the job is reasonably need to be sharp, because if you under index, you might not find people. If you over index, you might be throwing money, right? Similarly, in the European Union next year, the shift is going to come saying that every colleague in your organization may have the right to understand where their pay stands as it relates to the rest of the organization or people doing the similar jobs. So things need to become a lot more open, transparent than opaque. And I ask myself, is the function, the fraternity, and the business ready for that degree of transparency with the underlying responsibility that it throws on people? So I'll pause here because there's a lot that's going to come out through this group.
Okay, moving on to you, Ekta. From the business lens, what do you think?
Yeah, again, my answers are going to be very different to the two people on my right because they are from HR. I had engineering for Broadridge. From an engineering lens, again, I would say that we should look beyond compensation as to what motivates people. What we've done in our company is set up data labs, incubation labs for people to walk in, and then slice and dice all kind of real-time data, do analytics, get their hands dirty, learn out of it. And for some people, I've experienced a passion in this is so much that they wouldn't walk out of office even in the middle of the night. So yeah, I would say some of this is definitely HR compensation, how to slice and dice, put them in the right parity in terms of where they are. But also, how do you reward and compensate for talent beyond that is equally important.
Dr. Jayanthi, what do you have to say about it? Because you are completely from a different background, right? You come from the academics world.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon to everyone. And I thank BW people for having me here today. And yes, what I'm going to give you is another dimension of what compensation is. Being a professor and being into academics for the past 20, 25 years, compensation has been one of the topics that we have as an elective. It has evolved, compensation has evolved in terms of teaching, I should say. I come from a humble academic background, so I don't want to talk about compensation of academicians. But yeah, we do supply the KSAs, knowledge, skill, and capability required for the industry. Of course, I know that there's a lot of work that the organizations put up to train them to the current trend. But we do train them, we do give the basic of what compensation is. Like Sir told, right from the basic knowledge, basic pay, to the incentive calculations and your statutory requirements. All this is something that we tend to teach at the college level. And of course, today, there are simulations when we're talking about compensations that we bring into our students and try to make them industry ready. But you guys should tell us whether they are industry ready or you need, I know a lot of dollars is being spent to train our students to the industry requirement. But yes, compensation has been evolving right from when I had started teaching compensation to today's AI-driven compensation. Things have changed a lot. Pay by performance and pay by seniority. And yes, basically the purpose has to be considered, and market value and internal equity. External equity and internal equity has to be balanced, and it is a quite sensitive issue for every employee in the organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Ambarish, what is your take? You are a talent acquisition person, right?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Poulomi, for this question, and thanks, VW people, for inviting all of us to this panel, right? Really appreciate. My answer would be multifold. I mean, it'll be a mix of engineering because I represent Juniper. If a lot of people might not know, Juniper Networks is a company which builds cloud-ready data centers for the world, which is secure and driven by AI, right? So we are a very technical company, and we have ventured into the clouds primarily. So we are pure play tech company. To answer your question, Poulomi, first and foremost, I would agree with most of our colleagues here that compensation is not just compensation of the base pay or the overall compensation. It's also a mix of what's the culture, which are the people that you're working with. It's a mandate that we introduce our entire team to every candidate, mentioning that you are working with some of the people who have been from top IITs, from top B schools, so on and so forth. So that's the claim to fame that we have at Juniper. Of course, compensation is a big part of it. We definitely don't hire based on hierarchy. We hire based on skills, right? So very importantly, I wanted to give you a classic example. We were building the fastest router for the world. I mean, we were building it for Meta. It's the fastest router, and the people who were working for them when we were recruiting them, right? We never had experience as one of our bars, right? What was more important is if a person, like the person we've been hiring, are either IITians, gold medalists, and things like that from top schools, and they take roles which are not defined by experience. So let's say we hire them at a very senior most role, which is, let's say, a staff engineer or a technologist, a very senior technologist. We don't differentiate their experience. If they have 2 years of experience plus a PhD from IIT, we offer them the same designation, which means they get 30 to 40% more than what an industry veteran is getting, right? Who is dictating the industry with their skills, right? So a junior, or let's say a 2 years experience person, is getting the same kind of salary. So hierarchy versus skill-based hiring is what we do. We don't really, benchmark the experience level for any hires. And transparency is very important. A very funny story, right? So one of our senior technologists once told me that, come, I'll show you something on GitHub. GitHub, by the way, is a very famous platform. A lot of you might know. What a coder did, very interestingly, is he created Git repos. Repos are nothing but repositories with bands and salaries of different employees of different companies, FANG giants and startups. And it blew my mind off, right? So data is so easily available. You talk about Glassdoor, you talk about other, everywhere, it is there. So transparency is key. If you think that you're hiding your salaries with employees, that's never going to happen. It's a very, and just write a prompt on ChatGPT, you will get a ballpoint figure also, to be very honest. So I would say these are some of the practices we do. Of course, we can deep dive into more things as we move forward.
That's very interesting, Ambarish.
Even
Moving
Azad,
from
to add there that except in some of the blue collar mass services space, internal equity is passe, right? And I think the combination of fixed pay, fairness, and massive aggressive pay for performance determines where people stand, all right? And I think I call it market relevance and internal equity are like type 1, type 2 errors. You can't bring both down. You got to lean towards one, and the market would be merciless if you move away from it.
In fact, the definition of pay fairness has changed completely, right? Now it is no longer consistent. It is different, varied for different levels, skill sets, everything is different, right? That's how things have changed.
well, lots of points, honestly, from not hiring based on the experience, hiring based on the skills, transparency. Well, in the interest of time, let's move on. So question to you, Arun. You are from the financial world, and where mostly it's relied on the bonuses and the long-term incentives, right? So, is there a shift towards more skill based or capability driven rewards, and how instruments are like RSUs evolving to retain mid senior talents?
Okay, I'm speaking for myself rather than Barclays. It's a statutory caveat necessary in the banking space. So first things first, I think uh, organizations need to flash what is the best part of their proposition. So if you are an organization at a stage of evolution where your investors and employees can look forward to phenomenal non-incremental, non-linear growth because your business is at that space, then you would be stupid not to use RSUs, right? So what that means is if you're in advanced stage of, let's say, startups or pre-IPO, literally, there is so much value that you can get as an organization when you go public that it would be foolhardy to kind of not share that with, to attract the top talent who would otherwise not come because there is a risk associated with joining these enterprises. At the same time, if your industry is at a very mature, evolved stage, where, for example, it's mature pension funds and other fund houses that invest there, you are not going to rely a lot on what I call it alpha, high returns, high risk vehicles because you just can't afford to. So it's less of the industry. Yes, there is a lot more tech startups than there are, and financial services startups than other industries, but it's not actually a function of the industry. It's a function of the maturity of the industry which you are going through. So hopefully that answers the first part of the question around other things. Cash based compensation still has phenomenal relevance if you need to be competitive to hire top talent, right? And I don't think we are still in an ecosystem where people come in and say, I'm willing to take 70, 80, 90% of my rewards as pay at risk. We are not that stage of evolution in India, even at the most senior levels.
Thank you, Arun. That was really nice. Ekta, moving to you. From the business lens, right, how do you see AI and data-driven analytics shaping the real-time decisions that you are making around pay, right? Might be, you can talk a little about, if you are okay, that how do you measure the project-linked outcomes, or might be the NPS, CSAT scores linked to the reward system?
Sure, one of my favorite topics again, AI, right? So even from the engineering lens today, in cohorts where we say we have agile squads, we do stand-ups in the morning. There is one person in the team that's an AI bot, right? So the AI bot would come in a stand-up and then say, I did this today, right? Pretty much like how the others would say. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out as much as in engineering on the HR side, right? So why not? It'd be nice to see if we can capture real-time data about performance, about everything that the person delivers, a bit of emotional factor to the person's past, right? What the person has done, experience levels, all of that into the warehouse, right? It'll be nice like a Uber driver star, right? That you get real-time performance, analytics back vis-a-vis waiting till the end of the year to say, hey, this is what your rating is, right? So every time, you have real-time rating generated as to what you did good, what you did bad. It's great for managers, it's great for HR, it's great for persons themselves, and there is a huge amount of transparency because there are no biases to what the previous session we heard, right? Everything is pretty much calculated on the time, right, on the go. It'll be nice when AI tools remember and they remind us that it's award time and the person has done so and so, because that gets missed out. It'll be nice when AI says, so much RSUs I have calculated, please do this, right? So I think it should definitely get AI driven, but this is like the perennial question, right? It's like, should death sentence be penalized or should be there in India, right? So as much as we need AI to do all of this, we also definitely need a human touch, right? So what I would think will be like a right mix is managers, HRs looking at these tools, leveraging them to then not put biases, but put the real people angle to it, and then use these systems to actually make AI-based performance, calculations and award performance results accordingly.
If I may just add very quickly, and I think we are not at a stage where AI can be trusted to make comp decisions. But what AI is already putting on the table is it summarizes the history and the context for the people who need to take decisions to be able to take better decisions. And I think we are already at that stage.
Absolutely.
I think it's AI along with the human judgment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So moving on to you, Anamika. Today, right, every organization is paying top dollar for the same AI and the cyber talent. And you were talking a lot about the EVPs, right? So how are you strengthening your value proposition beyond compensation?
I'll talk about the value proposition with a combination of all that has been discussed in this room since morning. And the key was personalization, right? We've been speaking about it, personalization. One of the co-panel members had actually mentioned personalization doesn't necessarily mean each and every individual to have a personalized support system. It could be a group, it could be, let's say, a section of people. It could be a stage of life that you're in. It could be stage of career you are in, or the grade you are in, the compensation you are at in, right? So at different stages, the purpose for you, for your personal goals, for your professional goals is different. Through AI-enabled tools, there is a possibility to assess what are your personal goals, what are your professional goals. Through surveys, you can do it. Through one-on-one check-ins also, this can be done. And once you have that data, again, AI can definitely support to create the personalized value propositions for employees, right? That's the key. If you, as an employee, you feel that your organization is understanding your need, your purpose, what drives you, that will help you be with the organization for long. That will help you be retained in the organization as well. That is how a value proposition, as I believe, can be created and should be created, not necessary for each and every individual, but in groups, right? That's the personalization to create purpose for employees.
Okay, thank you. Adding to that point, Ambarish, now that you hire a lot of tech talents, right, where people have more and more increasingly becoming, skill-driven and mobile. And you also talked a lot about how you actually go ahead and hire. So how are you reimagining your propositions to attract and retain talents? Mainly might be if you can talk about something that is just beyond compensation.
Yeah, so I think the word competitive salary these days, right, has been a very, and I was talking to my fellow colleagues here, that it's been a very abused word these days, right? I was reading a post on LinkedIn by Anupam Mittal, who is the founder of Shadi.com, stating that every employee comes to him and says, "I want a 30 to 40% hike," but there's no rationale behind that, right? It has to be value driven, right? I can't offer a competitive salary to anyone and everyone who comes and says I want a 30% raise because I've probably got a counter offer, or some company is trying to hire me, right? How do you define impact? How do you define value? Is something which is paramount to HR function, right? If an ML ops engineer comes and says that with his automation, he has saved probably 2 crores INR for the company. That's impact. That's scarcity, right? If you have improved an X process and and increase the revenue by Y, that's impact. You can't just come and say, I have run an ML model and just as a tinkering lab, I've done multiple things, but there's no ROI for that, right? It's of no use for the company. So in my honest opinion, first of all, compensation, as I said, competitive salary is a very abused word. it should not be minced with, is it the highest of the range of that particular band, right? It should never be. A lot of leaders mince these things together and they, mix things up. What is important, and especially as a best practice that we do at our companies, we have impact bands, premium bands, where we don't just offer a salary to each and every person. We definitely would offer someone who is a top 10% performer in the company, losing whom will probably overnight or over a couple of quarters will lose market share, because that person is building a product which is giving us probably 50 to 60% revenue, right? So it is important to offer salaries to employees who are top performers, but there has to be a validation for that. Impact bands are something we have done. Secondly, there's a very unique concept which is market volatility allowance that we keep aside, right, for some of our top performers, so that we value them, we give them. And by the way, I forgot to mention, Juniper also is a very employee centric company. We invest a lot in employee trainings. In fact, we have set up probably more than 400 COEs across the country to train fresh grads out of college, and we have probably planned to train them on Juniper devices every year, roughly around 10,000 plus fresh grads. So as a company, we invest a lot on trainings as well. Uh, to answer your question, it is important to give competitive salaries and retain talent within the company, but it should not be at a cost where you're disguised by someone's value. There has to be a value that has to be validated, and only then that person should be given that compensation.
Well, that's a nicely
I
framed
think
answer.
if to paraphrase, I think there is a lot they being talked about skills, right? Unless skills translate into actions, that translate into delivery, that translate into impact. One of the metrics in the last slide that the previous speaker spoke about, what are we paying for, is a fundamental question. And one of the fault lines that I see very clearly across the India GCC spectrum is predominantly the ecosystem is paying for activities rather than impact. And unless that shifts, we are a million miles away from recognizing pay for performance. And the ability to measure outcome is what creates artificial landscapes around presentisms. Because what's the biggest fear in the hybrid model that organizations had, which is, because I can't measure what people do, I want them sitting next to me.
I would just add one small thing there, Poulomi, right? I forgot to mention that while you are retaining your employees with a competitive salary, it is also important that the managers tell their existing employees that don't get demoralized because you're not getting a 30% hike. It's very important and paramount to business that manager knows how to communicate an average performing employee that they will get the deserved hike if they perform well, right? So that's, the manager coaching is very, very important in a company which has impact bands for retaining as well as attracting talent.
Well, that's very interesting. We started from pay for skills, then pay transparency, and then we moved to pay for impact, right? Quickly moving on to Dr. Jayanthi. Now, we talked a lot with the corporate people. Yes. Now, in terms of academics, right, how do you see the definition of reward evolving? What do today's young professionals, right, mostly we're dealing with the Gen Zs, right, truly value? And how do you think that the organizations should respond to that shift?
Yeah, very true. Today's youngsters, or today the ones who are sitting in class, are Gen Zs. They are digitally born. And some of their teachers are like, they are impatient. They want instant gratification. I feel they are intelligent, they are critical thinkers, but they want everything quickly. And that is one, one characteristics or feature that our generation did not have. We waited, we had patience, and we worked a long way up. But today's generation is something different. The expectations in career or in their corporate world is completely different. And I think the organization can respond to them by devising or defining their policies to make jobs more autonomy, like giving them a little freedom. And of course, like they say, pay by performance. So metrics to measure performance, their performance and recognize. It's not only the monetary aspect that they look for something much more than that. Like autonomy, work-life balance, health, mental health especially. All these are something that they look forward when they question a lot. I see some companies that come to our campus and they give a presentation. There are a set of questions that the students ask about their career growth. And I think when HR is ready with all these answers, retention might not be a problem from the Gen Z.
Can I just add to that? Dr. Jayanthi made a very pertinent point, right? In different generations, there are different needs, right? Again, is it the clear career path they are looking for, career guidance they are looking for?
Mentoring.
Exactly, mentoring, coaching. There are different platforms, opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow, and opportunities to upskill, reskill themselves. There are different needs, right? Those are from the professional front. From the personal front, again, childcare support, parental care support, right? Maybe health and fitness participation in any of these wellness programs, or participating in external seminars like these to present their organization. What is it key for them, right? That's what we need to define. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, everyone. But before we end, I have a quick rapid fire, and that will just take few seconds. I know the times is up. So, starting with you, Anamika. Skills or experience? What should drive the compensation now?
Combination.
Okay. Moving on to you, Arun. Pay for performance or pay for potential?
Personal choice, potential.
Okay. Ekta, AI-driven decision or human judgment? Who gets the final say in pay?
Oh, blend of both, but
Oh.
move more towards AI. Pivot more towards AI now.
Okay. Ambarish, one thing money can't buy, but at work is?
A manager, especially someone who knows your salary.
Okay. Dr. Jayanthi, what's harder, justifying a raise or denying one?
Denying one.
Okay. And this is for all of you. If compensation were a movie, what genre would it be?
Horror.
Rom-com. Yeah.
Thriller.
Arun, you?
A romantic thriller. It always starts with romance, ends with a thriller.
What about you, Ambarish?
I would say suspense thriller, especially the suspense is about the salary, so suspense thriller.
Looks like your performance season is on.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a great discussion, everyone.